Hey everyone, this is KingAlec64, and I'm going to be doing my first clipless top 10 list, which is weird because my next review will be clipless. It'll be an anime hunt on Sword Art Online. As soon as I started thinking about that, what I was going to include and all that, I figured I'd do another anime list. This will be my top 10 moments in anime where I cried. Now, it's actually difficult for me to cry in movies or shows or any of that, but these are the moments where I just couldn't help it, but I felt a connection towards these characters as something happened or something may happen to them. Either way, these are just, in my opinion, on why these scenes made me cry. Now, I will warn you, I think it goes without saying that there will be spoilers, but I'll introduce the animes first and then explain the scene. Some of them you might even know. And I'll have in the description as to what times they are. I won't say in the description which animes, I'll just say like number 10 this time, number 2 this time. So it'll pretty much be like in my Sega collection anyway. It's a difficult list to do, and some may not be on the list because everyone spoiled me what happened, or I have not seen the anime. But keep that in mind. Enjoy.
Number 10.
Full Metal Alchemist. I'm only saying this for the original because with Brotherhood, I knew it was going to happen. I debated putting this on the list, but I remembered how I cared for so many of these characters like Al, Winry, and Hughes. All these great characters. Even the Homunculus, or however you say it. Lust, Envy, Wrath, all those villains, they were cool villains. And for those who don't know what this is about, it's two brothers, Edward and Al. I just call them the Aldrich brothers. They attempt a spell, but one of them loses his body, that being Al, and his soul is sent into a suit of armor, while the other one, Ed, is the one who puts his soul there, but Ed loses his arm and his leg in the process, so those are replaced by a metal leg and a metal arm. However, they hear about this thing called the Philosopher's Stone that can bring one of them back, but I debate, should it be Ed and he gets his arm and leg back, or should Al just have his entire body back? So, and they debate on could it be cured. The two scenes that I thought were at saddest, one of them I didn't really cry, and that's when they show the hybrid. I know, I forgot what it was called, but I just called it a hybrid. That was a time where I said, wow, I hope this person suffers, and they do. The other scene is the shooting back at the base where so many of the side characters are shot. As soon as I got to that point, I'm just like, oh, this is sad. And when I saw Hughes get shot, that was it for me. That was the moment that made me shed the tears, and I really like this character too. I'm so glad this wasn't like Phantom Blood or Code Geass where it's like, no, we have to be serious and tough all the time. This one had more of a lighthearted feel to it at times, and still some action when it got to the action. I'm not a huge fan of animes where it's reams and reams and reams of dialogue, unless it's a comedy, because you can have the context of the comedy. Anyways, I want to see an action anime when it's action. But I mean, when this one had its dramatic moments, it still worked for the most part. I felt there were some forced dramatic moments where I said, yeah, that was kind of painful. But those two scenes definitely got me by surprise.
Number 9.
Dragon Ball Z. Now that I know what happens, it isn't as tear-jerking, but this was a point saying we're making this a lot different than the original Dragon Ball for the two, maybe three people who don't know what Dragon Ball Z is. Sequel to Dragon Ball, one of my favorite animes of all time. Basically, the life of Goku and the many adventures he goes on. The scene that made me cry is when the Saiyans arrive on Earth, and then so many characters are killed in horrific ways. When I saw this first, I was still in elementary school. Characters are dying left and right, and I said to myself, oh, at least it can be brought back with the Dragon Balls. Chiaotzu dies, he's dead forever because they can't be brought back once. You can't use the same wish another time with the Dragon Balls. Then Piccolo dies, which means that Kami dies, and the Dragon Balls are gone. Everyone is dead. I was so upset at this, and even as I'm older, Piccolo's death is still pretty hard to watch. That was even when Goku pummels Nappa, and Vegeta just kills him as if to say, even I wouldn't have gone that far. Sorry, I had to get that impression out. So, yeah, nothing much else. I just thought it was a pretty sad scene.
Number 8.
Madoka Magica. This is the only one I won't give spoilers for because it only works if you have seen it and it's fresh in your mind. This entire series is just depressing. I went into this sort of knowing who the villain was. And this was a magical girl anime, but with a dark edge to it and a twist to like why they become magical girls and really if it's benefiting humanity, but not like one of those action movies where it grinds to all and says like, is humanity worth saving? Transformers sequels come to mind. And the less I could talk about this series or any of these scenes, the better. Let me just say, I want to shoot that cat.
Number 7.
Pokemon. This isn't the ending to Pokemon the first movie. That ending was awful. I'm talking about the second to last episode. I'm just gonna assume if you're watching this, you have at least heard of Pokemon, whether it be the series or the games. I would watch the series all the time. I was so obsessed with it. Now that I'm older, I'll acknowledge it's corny and stupid, but I still enjoy it. Reason being, I loved the characters, Brock and Misty. I can't stand Ash. However, this starts out with Ash saying something to Misty they'll bring up in a future video. Either way, Misty storms off for a good reason. She looks like she's in pain. After this, Ash and Brock help her out with another one of Team Rocket's schemes. You know how they are. After this, they walk back down the road, and they're all going back to their hometowns. This would not be so freaking sad if Misty had not started to sing. But she first says, keep on doing your best, and Ash is wondering, like, well, what are you talking about? She says, well, you know, without me there. And she sings about how hard it is to say goodbye. You could just see a tear from my eyes as soon as I was trying to hold it all back. It's such a beautifully animated scene, too. There are all these warm colors in the background for the sun setting. Also, I know a lot of you were expecting Ash's goodbye to Pikachu, but even I knew they weren't going to do that. Pikachu's too marketable. Sorry, but yeah, that scene gets me, even without the song.
Number 6.
Danganronpa. I know I'm cheating because this is based off a video game, but this was still a really sad scene for me. This is pretty much like Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney if everyone was a student and everyone was trying to murder each other in order to escape the school. The first death was the saddest in my opinion. If you have not played this game, then skip this now. It's when my favorite character, Mizuno, dies. I was shocked that the game had the guts to show this. This was an already uncomfortable game, but for me to pray she makes it out alright, and once I think she's safe, she's dead. I watched that image in horror as I wanted to burst out into tears. She was such a likable character, too. She was very sweet, very kind, and yes, she had her darker side, but I still cared for her, and she still cared for the main character. I know the anime was not as good as the original story, as it didn't transfer well, but Junko and Mizuno were the two things I thought were handled perfectly. Junko was funnier, and Mizuno was just animated so happily and so joyfully. So for her just to die and have them show the body in that bathroom was horrifying and really sad.
Number 5.
Soul Eater. I know, ironic we have both this and number 10 as Bones anime. I was not much of a fan of their animes except for this one. This was actually my introduction to modern anime. I love these characters, except for Black Star. I thought it created this very creative and very unique world. There are two scenes that made me cry. One was when Soul was cut by Krona's blade, and he's injected with the black blood. He just stands there suffering, and then passes out. I knew he was not going to die because the series was named after him, but it was still a sad scene as Maka is looking over him in the hospital bed in distraught. For some reason that really got me, but what really made me cry is when Maka goes into Krona's mind and sees everything, including how his or her life had been treated when being raised by Medusa, the villain. As we get quite an uncomfortable scene of Krona being locked in a dark room and getting beaten up by her partner, or just standing in the middle of a desert and constantly saying, "I pass" to everything. I was relieved to see Maka help bring his or her mind back as she takes out her hand and asks, "Would you like to be my friend?" She gives this friendly smile. Once that episode ended, it took a while for my eyes to dry up. I couldn't tell if it was from Krona being tortured or tears of joy when Maka offers to become friends. But it ends up being a very sweet moment. It's one of my favorite scenes in the entire series because it is so powerful. I really like seeing these characters getting along, especially when Krona tries to get used to everything at the academy. There's another scene where Krona lies what she did to one of the characters. I didn't like this episode, but the way Maka runs up to Krona, grabs him or her, and tells him, "Stop, I don't want to hear anymore, I trust you." That scene, while unneeded, was well done, but it didn't make me cry as much as the other two scenes.
Number 4.
Toradora. I always say there's no such thing as a flawless movie or a flawless show. This is probably the closest to being flawless. I can't think of anything wrong except for that the plot is unfocused at times. But where do I start? I fully believe that the two main characters do fall in love, but they don't realize until much later. I don't feel like I'm giving away too much. The story is about a student named Ryuji who goes to high school with his best friend Kitamura, and he sees that this girl he has a crush on, Minori, is there as well. But he accidentally finds a letter from her best friend, whom everyone refers to as like the Palm-Top Taiga, or Palm-Top Tiger. Anyways, her real name is Taiga. She finds out about the letter, and it was supposed to go to Kitamura, as she finds out about Ryuji's crush on Minori, and he begs her not to tell her. He'll do anything she tells him to do. So the rest of the series is just him helping her out with anything she tells him to do. From the start, you know they're gonna get together, but in a way I didn't expect, as they share these similarities. These two are adorable together. Now, there are, once again, two scenes that got me. They're both in the second half of the series. One of them is on a Christmas episode, surprisingly, as Ryuji stops attending the dance and goes off to Taiga and giving her a Merry Christmas, but he leaves as Taiga realizes the whole time he was her special one. The whole time she runs out, but is too late. The amount of shame on her face was really hard for me to watch, as Minori sees the whole thing and tells Ryuji how she really feels. It was such a downer ending, as both realized they were trying to win the hearts of their crushes, as they didn't even know that they loved each other the whole time. The other scene is when Taiga's parents come back and she has to go back home. I think that goes without saying as why I cried during that scene. This was even more sad than in Pokemon, because they never say if they get to see each other again. We just assume Taiga was just a once-in-a-lifetime bit of happiness that pulled all these characters together. If you have not seen this series and are fine with watching a romance, I definitely recommend it.
Number 3.
Akame ga Kill. This was a tough scene to swallow, and it's pretty early on in the series. The main character is every I'm going to avenge blah 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 blah. But I found myself liking all the other characters. I was recommended this by one of my friends, and I said, once you've gotten to know the characters, tell me which one's your favorite. Akame is probably my favorite now, but originally it was Shield. Now, you all know where I'm going with this. It's a beautifully done scene of the main character being upset, and Shield walks up to him and holds him from behind and comforts him and whispers in his ear. It's like, it's okay, I'm here, just let it all out. And now, this was at first every clumsy character with the glasses, but after watching this scene, I loved this character. She dies in quite a brutal scene. There's this huge fight scene that happens. Instead of this fight dragging out like a lot of other animes, like Dragon Ball Z, Shield protects the others as she's horrifically eaten by this beast. I could not put into words how I felt about this scene, only tears. In fact, I'm getting a little teary-eyed thinking about it. I'm not joking. Just like Danganronpa, I was in pure denial of the scene. I've got nothing else. Another thing is, people told me this is a sad anime. I said to myself, how can this be? It's on the list. That's how sad it is.
Number 2.
Cowboy Bebop. This was an amazing series, but I think what we can all agree on is that the ending is great. It wraps up so many things for all the main characters, including every backstory and resolution. Everything that happens in the last episode is a tease. Ed and Ein have already started their own life on another planet with all these other kids, and that was from one of the previous episodes. Spike's old friends are dying left and right, and all that because of Vicious, who betrayed them, as they both kill each other. Nothing else happens afterwards. You don't see what happens to Jed or Faye. You just see Spike slowly walking down those steps as he collapses and dies. As soon as that choir played, I knew that was it. There really was nothing else left to show. Even though Vicious dies, it's not a happy ending. This shows that dark endings can be handled well without being forced. This was meant to be an action-packed series with a lot of dark moments, but that was enough for it to end like this. I liked a lot of these quiet moments in the series, proving that anime can be used as a great form of visual media. That's all I have to say for this one. Rest in peace, Space Cowboy.
Number 1.
A Silent Voice. Chances are you've never heard of this movie. It's an anime movie that talks about bullying, the value of friendship, and having to see the world in a better way. Like a lot of teens, I went through a depression stage. I thought to myself that if I died, everyone would be happier. This movie actually shows the consequences of a bully's actions. He bullies a girl who's deaf, and she's transferred to another school afterwards. She does forgive him in high school, but they're both unsure how they're affecting other people's lives. Now, I thought the male lead was the one who was having the depression, but there really isn't a main goal to him other than for him to earn trust from the female lead and her sister. These are very likable characters, and I love seeing them together, from both the male lead and the female lead sister. They aren't dating, which I thank this movie for. They do try to get old friends back, but there's still one who hasn't changed since, and I forgot her name. I forget a lot of these characters' names, so excuse me for that. After a while, there's a scene where they're all watching the fireworks, and the female lead communicates to everyone. She uses sign language to communicate with everyone. She communicates to everyone that she has to go back home. He tries to check up on her. I think it was like to get a camera or something. Anyways, she's there, standing on the balcony, ready to jump off. My heart was pounding at this point. It turns out she wanted to kill herself because she was thinking she was to blame for all the bad things that was happening to him. But in reality, this was just selfish thinking. She didn't even think about how other people would react. She lives in the movie, but it is earned because they make this character so likable, and she does learn a lesson in the end about the importance of togetherness and friendship. However, the male lead saves her while also falling in the lake, as the one who bullied the female lead beats her up and says that she's to blame for all this. But in the end, it was just a big misunderstanding from both leads, as they both needed to know how to open it up more to the world, as we get a welcome happy ending. I am so glad that this movie was given an English dub and released in some of the theaters, even though it didn't get that much money here, because otherwise I would not have been able to see this powerful ending in such a well-paced movie. There's no villain, it's a slice of life. Many scenes are relatable and somewhat realistic for an animated movie from Japan. There were some pretty intense bullying scenes. It seems as if Kyoto Animation knows how teenagers are like, since they also did animes like Lucky Star and The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I know this doesn't sound like it was much of a crying moment, but if you've seen this movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. Keep that in mind for all characters that you think are fictional, but you can still have hope for them and hope they make it out alright. As long as the character seems relatable to you, you shouldn't feel ashamed for having strong feelings towards them. That's what I feel like that's what I feel like a lot of movies and shows seem to do with. You're being introduced to these unique people. If they seem real to you, then that's what matters most of all. Till then, everyone, till then.